We welcome you today for a second webinar, this time on a very hot topic as well, related to the future European degree. So we will have a very interesting number of experts, speakers, and participants to the roundtable who will share with us their reflections and the state of the art on this important development for the future of higher education in Europe in particular. But before that, I would like to already tell you that you can raise questions using the chat. These questions will be passed to the speakers during the question and answer sessions. And before we welcome the first speaker, I would like to present very briefly the EC2U Alliance. And for that, I will share my screen and just show you who we are. So the EC2U Alliance has been selected to the European Universities Initiative last year at the second round. It is composed of 7 universities, Poitiers, Coimbra, Alexandru Ioan Cuza in Iași, in Romania, Friedrich Schiller in Jena, University of Pavia, Salamanca, and Turku. And we have 30 associated partners, among which we have the municipalities, the 7 cities. We have students' associations, we have national agencies, we have as well different stakeholders, including chambers of commerce, science parks, and other networks. So all this consortium also can be seen from the higher education viewpoint, and we are grouping a total of 160,000 students, 20,000 staff, and the 7 cities make in total 1,600,000 citizens. And as you can see, the citizens are very important, and this actually explains why EC2U is the acronym of European Campus of City Universities, where the relationship with citizens and universities is central to our activities. Just to tell you that this consortium was not created from nothing, and just an example among many others, we see here the number of joint research publications which were published in the period 2009-2018 with researchers from at least 2 and up to 5 EC2U universities. This forms a number of more than 1,200 research articles, and you can see that clearly there are strong points of cooperation which are in the fields of physics and engineering, energy and environmental science, health and biology, and also social science and humanities. And these strengths in research among the EC2U universities led to develop our activities in the framework of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And in particular, for the first 3 years, we decided to focus on the 3 which are highlighted here, namely the good health and well-being, number 3, quality education, number 4, with a focus on multilingualism and interculturalism, and the number 11, sustainable cities and communities. So that already explains why yesterday we had a first webinar on the SDGs. And here you can see that from these 3 SDGs, we will create virtual institutes that will actually gather activities in the fields of education, research, and innovation. And what is, I believe, important to the discussion today, we will create the first EC2U multidisciplinary joint master programs, which are a new way to develop curricula based on the SDGs. Of course, we will have other activities such as summer, winter schools, joint PhD programs, and other research projects. And the SDGs are at the core of the EC2U Forum as it was started yesterday. So, but without further delay, I would like to immediately switch to the program of today. And it is my pleasure to first welcome Nadia Manzoni. So for that, I will stop sharing my screen. So Nadia, you can join us. And I would like to welcome Nadia. You are coordinator of the European Degree Study at the DG Education at the Commission, and you will present the recent study on the future European degree, so exactly the topic of our discussion today. So Nadia, the floor, the screen is yours. And don't forget to put your mic on, yes.
Hello, good morning.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Great.
We don't see you, but we do hear you.
Yes, let me fix that problem. Thank you very much for having me. There you go. You have the video as well. This is a very important.
We lost the video, Nadia.
No
It's coming
problem.
back. It's coming back. It's coming back. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. This is a very important topic for us and for the European universities as a whole. And we are delighted to discuss this with the wider audience. We are right at the beginning of this new exciting policy development, which is of relevance not just to European universities, but also to other groups and networks of universities across the EU, which are working on joint programs, joint degrees, multiple degrees, and similar. So before I start, I just want to say this is the very beginning of a new policy development. The definition of a European degree as such does not exist yet. We are now in this event and in many other events and in the course of this year 2021 in the process of defining this together with the European universities and other stakeholders who are interested and have an opinion. So take this presentation as a conversation starter, as just a snapshot of our current thinking in the European Commission about this, and as an initiation of a conversation where we would like to hear what you would expect from such a European degree. So let me start. The reason why we're talking about the European degree is the massive expansion of cross-border cooperation in higher education, which you are, I'm sure, familiar with. Here are some numbers that just demonstrate the size, and we know the trend is rising. So we have 280 higher education institutions involved currently in the European universities initiatives. We have, since 2004, had 450 Erasmus Mundus joint master programs at master level only, but also similar initiatives at doctorate level. 75 Marie Skłodowska-Curie joint doctorate networks. And there are many more, not necessarily financed by EU programs and not necessarily part of big structured European programs. So it's a transformation in the higher education environment. And we are seeing, despite this trend, many problems and challenges that these networks are facing when it comes to recognition of the degrees, when it comes to administrative procedures for accrediting them, and for quality assuring their programs, and it is a part of the reason why we are looking at the European degree as a possible solution to alleviate some of these problems. It is not just however, it's not just an initiative to solve the current administrative and legal barriers to cross-border cooperation. It is also to give sort of not just a brand, but recognition of the kind of new type of education that is taking place in European universities like EC2U. So it is transformative what is happening there. It is new. It happens across many countries. It happens across many institutions in multiple languages. And it seems that the traditional qualifications don't quite capture the transformative element of this kind of education. So we have brainstormed a vision inside the European Commission that we're hoping to bring other member states along with and other stakeholders along with. And you see it here on the screen. So the vision is to create a globally recognized degree that will be synonymous for innovative and transformative higher education from multiple institutions in multiple European countries. So let's break that down a bit. We have a whole lot of very positive developments happening in European universities and in these joint programs that a European degree could stand for. And here is a list that is not complete, but that is the reality in some of these alliances. So we have mobility embedded in these programs. We have multilingualism taking place, and students and staff working and studying in several languages. We have innovation in the way teaching and learning takes place. At the same time, we have academic rigor in the sense we are not completely we haven't completely moved away from traditional academia, and there is a big focus on rigor in scientific research. We have student-centered learning in so many different innovative forms, and student involvement at a really high scale. We have challenge-based and experiential learning, especially when it comes to sustainable development goals. We have exposure and engagement at higher levels with research, and a big focus on the research education link. We have interdisciplinarity, big time, but also a concern that what is happening should be aligned with future labor market needs and relevant. We have some alliances experimenting with modularization and flexibility, meaning giving students the opportunity to take different modules to combine, to make the best of the different of what the different universities within the alliance can offer. This is the whole point even. We even have some that go as far as allowing students to self-customize their study track, which really in today's world is key and will be the future, that you can pick and choose what is most relevant for you, most useful, and create your own study path. You heard from Ludovic as well, civic engagement, the link with the citizens, with the cities, is also something many alliances are working on. So what the purpose of this list is that we would like to define together with the stakeholders what we jointly, all of us, want the European degree to stand for. And we will be doing so in the course of the next year. In talking to the stakeholders so far, we haven't defined the European degree, but we have been able to define certain things that stakeholders are calling for. So they are telling us, students, higher education institutions, and so on, that if we're going to go for a European degree, whatever it ends up being, it should have a very clear value proposition, a value added for all stakeholders. It should be applicable to all three cycles, meaning bachelor, master, and PhD level. Maybe even micro credentials, which is the new sort of form of short study courses that are also quality assured and accredited at the end. It's also important that this is not just available to European universities, but all joint studies in the EU. And that at the end, this qualification, if it ends up being a qualification, is automatically recognized, that there's no additional level of recognition it has to go through. It's important that it respects that it's procedurally feasible, meaning that it's not very bureaucratic and very difficult for alliances and other groups of universities to apply for and award. That it respects diversity. That it's not a one size fits all, because all the different alliances and different institutions have their own strengths, and this should be recognized. Portability is a hard one, but it means that it should be able to grant access to further levels of education, that it should not add complexity to the system of higher education in the EU, that it should be evidence driven, and finally that it should respect subsidiarity and proportionality, meaning that the EU should not get involved in matters that are better dealt with at a national level. So really bottom line is to add value to what is there at the moment. We are not starting from scratch here. This list, I will not go through it in detail, but it is everything we have identified that already exists at EU level, that is agreed among the member states, and that this new European degree can build on for ensuring that that it is quality assured, that it is transparent towards everybody in the system, and that it is recognized. We already have standards and guidelines defined. We have a European approach to quality assurance of joint programs. It's just been tested by one of the European alliances in the last weeks, and it works very well. We have a lot of elements. We call them enablers that now have to somehow be analyzed and put to the service of this European degree. And we are going to do this in a study that we have that we're about to launch, which is the study on the scope and benefits and feasibility of a European degree. It will go on for 15 months, and I invite you as stakeholders to join this train and formulate your opinions about what a European degree could be, how it could be administered so it doesn't add complexity, how it could add value. Because this study will have at least 4, if not more, stages where stakeholder consultation will be organized. At the first of all, at the very start of this study implementation, the contractor that we have chosen, which I cannot reveal right now, it will be revealed next week. Will do a very detailed mapping of the joint program delivery at European level in the European alliances, but also elsewhere, to see what are the obstacles and possible solutions to the cross-border cooperation that these alliances have encountered. And from this mapping, we will move on to the next phase, which again involves stakeholders very widely on agreeing what are these quality parameters and quality hallmarks of a European degree, the mobility, the interdisciplinarity, and so on. And then experts at a more technical level will look at the existing enablers, the existing quality assurance and transparency mechanisms at European level, and how can they be put to service of the European degree, and will elaborate several hypothetical models for the implementation of the European degree. Will it be a brand? Will it be a quality label? Can it be a self-standing qualification? Who will award, in that case, this qualification? How will it interact with the national qualifications, and so on? And then the stakeholders again will be convened and will together brainstorm the feasibility and the possible impact of these different models in order to arrive at a recommendation for the most beneficial and most feasible option to the European Commission. What is important in terms of the impact assessment and in terms of the feasibility assessment is in this slide. So it is important that I've highlighted here the most important one, that this, whatever option we choose for the European degree, that it kind of makes it easier for joint study programs to offer a qualification, to offer a degree. And despite all the different national frameworks they're operating within. And very important as a vision is that this strengthens the reputation of the European higher education system as a whole in the world. So a European degree should immediately evoke a high quality and all these different quality hallmarks we will agree on to people not just in the EU, but also outside of the EU. All of this is nice, but it also has to be feasible, otherwise it will not catch on. So we have identified certain things that we sort of should not compromise on, meaning that certain conditions for academic and professional recognition of this degree absolutely have to be fulfilled. And in the process of this study, we will check which ones are they, what are these conditions, and what does a degree have to consist of, and in order for it to be recognized. It also has to be attractive to students, otherwise it will also not be, I mean, that's the ultimate point. It will not live if it's not attractive to students and to higher education institutions. And in terms of feasibility, it's important that it coexists well with the national degrees, that there's no hierarchy. So there, you see, there is a lot of work to do, and it's a very complex topic. I'm sure we will discuss this further today. This is the timeline for our study, just so that you know when is the right time to formulate opinions and feed into the stakeholder consultation. So already by summer this year, we should have a thorough mapping and a definition of these hypothetical models in place, in order to then spend the second half of this year discussing feasibility and impact of these options, and to formulate the final recommendations towards the beginning of next year. Thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing your views on everything I have just presented.
Thank you very much, Nadia. Perfectly on time. And you basically set the scene, right? You have shown the way that we will have to follow to reach that really interesting target. We are not there yet, as you said. I noted down already some interesting keywords that will probably come back in the discussion as well, such as no complexity, no size fits all, consultation, attractive to students. We'll surely come back to this during the session this morning. Thank you very much, Nadia. I would like now to propose to the second speaker. We are delighted to welcome Maciej Markowski. So Maciej, please, you can turn on your camera, and we already see your presentation. Thank you for being with us. Maciej, you are the chair of the European Consortium for Accreditation, ECA, and you are also you were the coordinator of the EMPA project that specifically worked on the European approach that is very important in this topic of today. So thank you for having accepted to present the outcomes of this very important project. The screen is yours.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. It's a really great pleasure to be here and to present the, well, first of all, talk a little bit about the European approach for quality assurance of joint programs, but foremost to present the results of the project that has just ended in December. The EMPA project that was that stood for facilitating implementation of the European approach for quality assurance of joint programs. So I would like to first start with telling you a few words about the European approach itself. So basically, European approach is really great, the European policy that, of course, had some struggle on the way of developing and on the, let's say, the current stages of implementation, although I think that we are very, very close to finishing and to implement it within the whole European higher education area. However, let me share a few words of the background and the history of the European approach, and why it might be challenging, and most importantly, why it might be useful for you. So before the European approach came to being, it came to light, the joint programs have been accredited according, and still are accredited according to different national quality assurance regimes, which of course, as you may already know, those of you who work with joint programs or were engaged in quality assurance or establishing a joint program, lead to multiple different procedures, multiple different requirements, national criteria, sometimes contradictory, because there are different quality assurance frameworks, and so on, so on. Of course, not to mention the obvious, which is the bureaucratic and administrative burden that is related with the accreditation procedure, the multiple accreditation procedures of a single joint program, according to a different national standards and different national requirements, and that actually, you know, multiplies the work for the joint program consortium. One of the first attempts to solve that problem has been done by ECA, by the organization that I have a great honor to chair at the moment. In 2010 to 2013, we've been carrying out the project called JOCAR, which stood for Single Accreditation Procedure and Mutual Recognition of Accreditation of Joint Programs, which basically aimed to test and provide the possibility of solving the main key issue, which is the multiple different national procedures. And we were testing if it's possible to actually accredit joint programs only in the single accreditation procedure that would fit and that will satisfy all the national requirements. Since that has been successful and proven possible, the further works actually continued, and since the demand for such procedures was growing, back in 2012, the Bucharest communique highlighted the necessity of and highlighted the need of quality assurance agencies to recognize each other's decisions on the joint programs and work together to limit the burden of higher education institutions that offer the joint programs. In the end, in 2015, the ministers of the European higher education area in Yerevan adopted the European approach for quality assurance in joint programs, together with the updated European standards and guidelines for quality assurance in general. However, since then, there was, the European approach as such a complex policy and touching every single quality assurance regime and national requirements, of course, stumbled upon lots of obstacles and so on. This is why we've been working on the IMPIA project to make things easier a bit. However, this is not about the project has ended, so I'll focus on the results in the end. But let me now focus on what actually the European approach stands for and what is the key assets of the European approach. So basically, the main value of the European approach for quality assurance of joint programs is the fact that the joint programs should be accredited and should undergo the quality assurance procedure only once, as every other regular study program. However, focusing on the key aspect and the key added value that stands behind the joint programs, which is jointness, to emphasize the jointness of the joint program, which sometimes have been missing when only taken into when only the national requirements and only the national perspectives for quality assurance, for the programmatic quality assurance have been taken into account when accrediting a single program. Therefore, the idea behind the European approach is that we have a single framework, we have the single quality assurance procedure that, of course, is in line and is based on ESG, therefore satisfies the requirements of all the national like the basic principles of the quality assurance in the European higher education area. Furthermore, the quality assurance agencies that are recognized, that are listed and registered in ECAR, can make the decision that should be accepted and should be recognized in all other interested countries. Therefore, the joint program shouldn't undergo a specific accreditation or the individual accreditation in every country that actually the joint program is delivered across the European higher education area. Of course, the other main principle is that there are no other additional criteria other than those that are listed in the European approach. The ministers for higher education agreed on such principles, agreed on the framework, agreed on the basics of the principle of the procedure, and so now we can use it in more and more frequently in more and more countries. How many? I will tell you a little bit more about that later, and how to use it as well. So now maybe let's focus on the framework itself. As you can see, well, of course, these are just the list of the main criteria. However, if you look at it from just the perspective of the quality assurance of any program, only looking at the main topics and the main criteria, like learning outcomes, study program, quality assurance, internal quality assurance, teaching, learning, and assessment. These are basically more or less the same standards and more or less the same areas that are taken into account like in any other program accreditation. However, what is the most distinctive in the European approach, and of course there are a couple of things that are distinctive here, is first of all is the eligibility criterion, which any program that wishes to undergo through the European approach based procedure needs to be in line with. So basically, the criterion for eligibility means the criterion for checking whether the program that is taken into account is really a joint program. There is a definition in the European approach of a joint program, which sometimes this is one of the main reasons why there are some problems with implementing of the European approach. The definition that is proposed in the European approach is very broad and is very wide. Therefore, sometimes the national definitions of a joint program that are used in the national legislations can interfere with that. However, I think that more and more countries are getting along with the definition that is proposed in the European approach. Basically, one of the key and one of the main elements of the eligibility of a joint program is that the program, in order to be recognized as a joint program, needs to be offered, needs to be offered jointly, needs to be delivered jointly, needs to be designed jointly and implemented jointly by all the partners within the consortium. It's pretty it seems to be pretty simple. However, if you dig deeper, it might be a little bit challenging, and of course, it should lead to a multiple or joint or double degree at the end. It's very wide. However, if you look at it in a very detailed way, it can give you a lot of let's say guidance how the joint program can be or should be designed and should be treated. As I said, all the other elements of the framework are basically the same. Well, let's say in main principles are the same as any other accreditation procedure. However, when we take into account in the accreditation procedures the learning outcomes, the study program, the teaching and assessment, and so on, and the quality assurance, we first and foremost look for a jointness of a joint program, which means that we are looking for the added value behind the fact that the program is offered jointly in the international consortium, and we are looking for the distinctive feature that comes with this jointness. So basically, when we discuss the learning outcome, when we discuss the study program, when we discuss any other approach to a program, we would like to know why the program has been designed and delivered jointly. Why? What is the main benefit and what is the main factor that stands behind the fact that the program is offered and delivered in a joint manner? So that means that there has to be any educational and any added value for the students, any added value for, of course, also for the consortium that comes from the fact that it's a joint program. One of the criteria that usually is a bit of a challenging for the consortia, but also for the quality assurance agencies, is to evaluate the last standard, which is the quality assurance, which means that basically the quality assurance of a joint program, from the internal perspective, the internal quality assurance needs to fit in the specifics, and it needs to fit in the needs of a joint program. Therefore, sometimes, and taken into account the design of a joint program and the way how it is delivered, the consortium not necessarily always can rely on each individual internal quality assurance procedures or systems that are implemented in their individual higher education institutions. Simply because in most cases, those quality assurance regimes might not, or those quality assurance systems might not necessarily take into account the exact aspect of a joint programs, which is jointness, which is the international value, which is the for instance, embedded mobility, which is the international intercultural competencies that should be developed within the joint program and should be emphasized within a joint program. Therefore, sometimes the quality assurance systems, in order to fully cover all the aspects of the joint program, should be designed specifically for the joint programs with consortium. Also, all the other aspects of the framework of the European approach emphasize and take specifically into account the fact that the joint program is very different from any other program that is offered regularly within any higher education institution. That means that when taking into account, for instance, student support, or take into account the resources, the criteria regarding the resources, the fact that the joint program should, of course, be able. Well, the students usually come from different cultural backgrounds, different international backgrounds. The students are mobile, and this is embedded within the joint programs, and all those support systems and all the support measures and resources offered by the consortium should take this into account. Sometimes this might not necessarily be covered by quality assurance regime systems within the institution. Therefore, it is important to specifically highlight this aspect. Okay, moving on. The procedure for the quality assurance of a joint program according to the European approach is almost the same as from the higher education institution or from the consortium. Basically has the same steps and basically has the same principles as any other accreditation procedure that you are familiar with. Of course, after choosing quality assurance agency that you would like to work with, and the consortium decides to work with for the accreditation procedure, agreeing on the terms of references and so on. The institution is, the consortium is asked to present the self-evaluation report, which is then reviewed by the review panel. There is a site visit, of course, that sometimes can take place in one higher education institution, sometimes can take place in few of them, not necessarily all of them, depending on the individual circumstances of each program. However, usually it takes place in one, perhaps sometimes coordinating the institution that coordinates the joint program. The panel develops the report, and then the decision is made by the coordinating agency, circulated among all the agencies, all the other agencies that are interested or are indicated by the program consortium to be interested in accreditation of the specific program in order to be recognized. And if everything is in line and the agency is allowed to recognize the decision based on the European approach, the procedure ends here. Of course, the follow-up mechanism is agreed upon, and the decision and the accreditation procedure should be renewed every 5 to 6 years. So basically, the procedure is more or less the same as any other accreditation procedure at the program level. So there is not much here, not much more here, despite the fact that there is one coordinating agency and there is multiple communication that needs to be implemented in this in the accreditation procedure. Well, the positive aspect of the European approach right now is the fact that it's accepted by the vast majority of the countries that actually constitute the European higher education area. More and more countries are joining in. The map from 2017, so when we started the project, would show that most of the Europe would be in red, which means that not accepting or not allowing the European approach. Now the situation is improving as more and more countries start to recognize, either unconditionally or with some specific conditions, how to work with European approach and to recognize the decisions. Right now, I think that among the European higher education area, there are 30 countries that recognize and only 19 countries that not necessarily recognize or are in the process of accepting the European higher education area. simply because sometimes it really requires a lot of changes in the legislative framework at those countries' side. Therefore, it might be challenging for them to work with it from the very beginning and whenever it's needed. So the other side of my presentation, which will be significantly shorter, is the presentation of the result of the IMPIA project, which is European Approach Online Toolkit. Since we have been working on one of the aspects of one of the key aims of the project was to provide the sustainable measure for universities and for quality assurance agencies to support them in using European approach, and we designed this measure as an online toolkit, which is available under the webpage impia.eu. You are more than welcome to have a look at it. Let me just go briefly what you can find over there. The European Approach Online Toolkit aims to be one-stop shop for quality assurance agencies and for higher education institutions wanting to use the European approach for their quality assurance procedures. What you can find there, of course, starting with the basics, the key documents that you might be that you might need for the quality assurance of a joint program, both at the internal and at the external, from the external perspective, simply because the European approach, even if in your consortium you don't really need to use the program accreditation of a joint program, European approach is really good to take a look at when you design the internal quality assurance of your joint program, simply because it puts together all the necessary and all the important aspects of the quality assurance of joint program. So starting from the key documents, we have also designed and recorded a set of short introductory videos about the European approach, which in a very simple form introduce you to the concept of the European approach, each individual aspect of the European approach, like criteria, like decision-making, like the stakeholders that need to be included, like a roadmap, how to approach the procedure, what is a joint program, discussing a definition a little bit. So if you would like to learn more in a more interactive way, this is the way to go, the page EA Introductory Training. One of the biggest parts of the European of the toolkit is the section Understanding EA, where every single criterion is explicitly described and elaborated on, including some most important bullet points, including some further reading materials, including some tips and tricks and some case examples from the programs that have been accredited according to the European approach within the IMPIA project. What you might also find there is exemplary documents that you might have a look at. For instance, here the NOHA Joint Master Program shared their consortium agreement, simply because to show how the internal quality assurance system is structured. So you might refer to that as well. Most up-to-date information. Just one minute. I see that Ludovic, you are already here, so I'll just one minute to conclude. The most important, the most up-to-date information about the European approach in your country are included in the ECHART knowledge base, which is updated as any changes are made. So you can find the link there at the toolkit as well. Guide to self-evaluation, which takes you step by step through each individual stages of the self-evaluation, including template for the self-evaluation, which you might refer to, which gives you which aims to structure the procedure, which aims to structure your self-evaluation report, including some exemplary approaches to what kind of information you might need to collect and you might need to present to the accreditation agency in order to make your and theirs life easier, and so on. Mandatory annexes, which is always good to include to the self-evaluation report in order to smoothen the accreditation procedure. The checklist, for instance, that we also, based on our experience with the accreditation of the European approach, based on the European approach, the higher education institutions might want to work according to the further checklist. And you are more than welcome to share your opinion and to visit online Toolkit in order to make your life a little bit easier for the accreditation of the joint program. If there are any further questions, I'm very open to contact. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maciej, for this very comprehensive presentation. That's why actually I didn't show up before, because I think that all the audience was very, very interested in all these practicalities, which to my personal opinion are absolutely needed. And as I presented initially in the EC2U Alliance global presentation, we are very, very interested in all what you just showed. So that's why I was fine with the time, let's say. Thank you very much. We'll come back to the question and answers a bit later, and I can tell you that there will be a lot of them. I would like now to call the third speaker, Luca Lantero. Luca, you are the director of CIMEA in Italy, and you are also, from that regard, an associated partner from the EC2U Alliance, and you will give us an overview on the joint programs to the aimed European education area, from European degrees to micro-credentials, and that are also very hot topics currently. Luca, it's you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Luca Lantero. I'm the director of CIMEA, the Italian Ethnic Narek Center. I am also the president of the Lisbon Recognition Convention Committee Bureau. As you know, the Lisbon Recognition Convention, the only legislative act at international level for European and North America region in 55 countries. So my approach today is to take the topic from the angle of a credential evaluator, from the angle of someone that have to evaluate, recognize a qualification in a country or in different national context. And I started to think about my intervention, and since I started in 2004 to work for the Erasmus Mundus national structure in Italy, I have a lot of experience of the development of joint programs since the very beginning. But right now, I'd like to speak about the final results of a joint initiative, learning initiative, that is the qualification. First of all, of course, right now, in 20 years, we build a lot in terms of our cooperation. We innovate a lot. We also face different challenges on global scale, in the fact that with, for example, with Erasmus Mundus, or with a lot of capacity building project, we open our area to, as let me say, genuine students. We want to attract the qualified students, scholars, and people that can help also the growing of our national context and economies. And this is very, very important. But of course, there are also some problems or some other challenges. It means that, for example, for joint programs, right now we can offer double, multiple, or joint degrees to students, but those degrees are valid only in 2, 3, 4, some national contexts in our member states, the awarding, according to the awarding bodies, but not as a, let me say, a supranational qualification or degree that give the possibility to the holder of the qualification to spend the qualification directly in a national context. Spend or the validity means, in my intervention, the possibility to have a direct academic and professional rights in a national context. What does it mean? Direct possibility to continue your study, direct possibility to enter in public competition and regulated profession. When I say direct possibility, it means automatic possibility, more instantaneous possibilities, because as you probably know, we are going to speak a lot about automatic recognition, but in the perception of people, automatic means instantaneously. So I don't need anything to recognize my qualification in other national contexts. But the reality of fact, also of the recommendation of the European Commission and what happened also in the European higher education area, is that automatic means the fact that I recognize the fact that you have a foreign qualification at a certain level, but that you have to pass through all the recognition procedure in another national context. But in the perception of normal people or European citizens, automatic means instantaneously. And sometimes we answer to a lot of questions regarding the validity of a qualification awarded in one European member state. And people, they used to say, oh my God, we are within a European Union, why my qualification from Spain is not automatically, so instantaneously, so why I cannot spend directly my qualification formally in another national context, etc. The reason is very simple, because the competence of the European Union is a supporting one in education in our field. It means that all the member states remain responsible for this kind of competencies regarding education and academic recognition. I don't speak about the professional recognition, the recognition of regulated profession, because this is another point, and this is very related to the free movement of professionals that is in the hand of the European Union, but is managed, of course, by another general direction, that is the internal market and not education. So the main point is that one, is a legislative point at the very beginning. But of course, we also want, and also in our future, the concept of to have or to award an European degree, so an European full qualification that is automatically accepted in any national context, is something that is better to work to. I don't say automatically recognize, because as I said before, the recognition from my point of view means that you have to put in place an evaluation. So it's another procedures. So the fact to automatically accept, so automatically give the possibility to express professional academic rights, is the new challenge in that field. And is absolutely something very, very interesting. But to achieve that results, we have absolutely to have an intervention directly on each national legislation. This is not, this is something that it's very clear. And this is very difficult also, because to start any kind of discussion at national level within our different contexts on that point, considering a lot of other complications, other points, is very difficult. In the idea of the Commission reading the documents of the European education area, of course, the European degrees are not considered as a label. We know that in the past we have the different labels, the Doctor Europeus, probably you know the EUA initiative for PhDs to give a label of an international doctor, European doctor, PhD qualification. But also in that case, we receive a lot of questions for people that receive that label and say, oh, okay, I'm a Doctor Europeus on my paper, and with my PhD I can enter directly in any kind of public competition or profession or academic context in another EU country. No, it's not like that. This is a label. And also the European, the Erasmus Mundus Joint Master Degree is a label by itself, but the validity of the degree is according to the awarding institution and national context where they are placed. So now the situation is different. We want to create, and the intention of the Commission is, according to the document that I read, to create a real European degree that have a direct impact at national level. Please note that the European education area is also, and this is very important to understand that point, a political process. And this is according to the documents circulating among member states. It's not a context or a process that create policies. Yes, they create policies, but first of all, as a process is a political one. And because it's a political one, it want to achieve a lot of different challenges, very important challenges, as the challenge to pretend to change or start to change the national context and legislation in that field. Role of European University Initiative. Of course, this is very important, and this is very important. Consider also the micro-credentials. Why? It's a matter of fact that the main point, the most important point of any kind of educational sector or the higher education sector is that everyone recognizes the similar prayer. I make you an example. If you are an academic and want to take an agreement with another institution, first of all, it doesn't matter if it's an official one, can the other institution in other national countries award official qualification, etc. The important point is the added value in the academic sector of your relation with your colleagues. I make you another example. In the IT sector, it is not important if a certificate or qualification awarded by Microsoft is an official one, is in a national context, because the IT sector recognizes the validity of that certificate or qualification and accept the qualification in the specific field. So I think that the good approach could be to start from the competencies, abilities and skills. So to start from learning outcomes achieved in any kind of learning initiative or learning products. And the fact to have European alliances in different fields can create that kind of acceptance at supranational level. Why? One of the possibility that I saw that some alliances are going to work on it is to start also to create in parallel with a final program at master level, for example, different learning products that we called micro-credentials that can give specific and very clear competencies and abilities that can be accepted in the specific field on specific disciplines of sector, and those can be most easily accepted instead of a final degree, a final qualification that imply more difficult impact and social impact in terms of as I said, academic and professional rights. So one point to investigate, I think, for also the European Universities Initiative is to start to think at the very beginning to an approach on European micro-credentials or European qualifications in general terms, and then pass to European degrees, considering that we have to work a lot at national level and legislative level to develop real European degrees in Europe. But of course, to start on some products that can be accepted, starting to the fact that they give specific competencies, abilities, and skills in certain field, very, very specific, is very interesting. For example, I'm very interested on your proposal or your joint master degree related to SDGs. And for those kind of points, probably in specific fields, you can create something part of your course as a micro-credential that can be spent directly by people in different contexts and accepted directly. So the fact to start not from the formal approach to a degree, but from the competencies that are or learning outcomes that are inside and directly have an impact with any kind of learning initiative. This is something that it's for you only to have some food for thought for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luca, for this impressive overview of the different aspects of the problem, if I may say. We have actually a lot of questions now. So I would like to call our three speakers, sorry. So Nadia, Maciej, and Luca, you can stay with us. The time actually is against us, as you can see, but again, the presentations were really important to follow entirely. So I would like to call Nadia, Maciej, and Luca to turn on your mic and camera if you agree. I will limit myself to ask one or two questions to each of you, and I will kindly ask you to try to be as concise as possible so that we can really have also the time to have the roundtable and maybe further questions to you at the end of the session. But again, it's just because we have a lot of interest from the audience, so which shows that you did a really good job. Thank you for that already. Maybe starting with you, Nadia. You clearly have shown that the Commission is on a consultation process, and we, as alliances, we know that indeed support also from your side is very crucial to be able to develop all these new approaches. Are you planning to have a sort of marketing tour at the different levels, including also the national ministries and agencies, so that the whole community becomes aware of all these steps that need to be performed to reach this future European degree?
Yes, and we are, but it is a step-by-step process. You see, we are. I think at the first stage, it's about collecting the expectations, the views, and creating a sort of ownership of the process at all levels, among the institutions, among the students, among the recognition centers, among quality assurance agencies, and among national administrations. And then it's about, once we come closer to an idea of what is the most feasible and most impactful option, then it comes to let's see how we implement this and what is the role of national authorities, what is the role of quality assurance agencies, and so on. But this year it will be about building ownership and picking up on the expectations around the European degree from on all the different levels.
Okay, thank you, Nadia. If time allows, I will probably come back to you with more questions, but we had a very good view on what is the Commission plan from that aspect. Maciej, I would like to just raise a few quick questions. There are a lot actually, but for instance, could you tell us if there are some language recommendations for joint degrees? That's number one. I just give you all of them, and then if you can reply. Although I have to limit myself because there are a high number of them. So the language. Number two. How can we apply, or is it easy to apply the European approach to the case of interdisciplinary programs? Because you mentioned indeed the disciplinary field. So when we are out of that, what's the situation? Three, another even more complex case, the à la carte program. You know that in the expectations from the European Universities Initiative, the idea was also to be able to provide to the students the possibility to choose. Of course, it has to remain in the sound context, of course, but there is this possibility of offering à la carte. And I can already tell you that we are at EC2U Alliance encountering some difficulties with the idea of à la carte when we start to speak with the agencies or the ministries. And there are many others, like can we combine jointness and flexibility? So you see, you are the star of the morning, actually.
Okay, so starting with the first question, the language. From the, let's say, I'll take the external quality assurance perspective. In short, for us, of course, probably the best would be English. Although the longer answer to that is you need to take into account the fact that the program will be accredited by the international panel and should be recognized. The decision should be recognized by multiple different national quality assurance agencies. Therefore, it is worth taking this into account. So it is, for instance, possible to, of course, to structure the program and deliver it in the different language than English, but you need to take into account that at some point you might need to, face the language problems when it, well, let's say difficulties, not the problems, difficulties when it comes to the accreditation. Of course, they are not unsolvable. You just need to take them into account that at some point that they will happen, and that's it. So it is worth taking this into account. The interdisciplinary and a la carte, I think that I can combine them because I think that they kind of look very, very clear to me. First of all, the standards shouldn't be taken. The standards shouldn't be taken as a separate individual standards. They should be looked at as a certain logic. So you, of course, when you structure the program and at the end of the day, when you accredit the program, your starting point are the learning outcomes of the program. So that doesn't really necessarily mean that the learning outcomes have to be connected strictly with only one discipline. That, of course, they can be interdisciplinary. And if you have a look at the Erasmus Mundus master degree, there are plenty of really spectacularly innovative programs that are completely interdisciplinary. So perhaps that should answer the question. And the same, I think, it comes with the a la carte question. So from the accreditation point of view, to simplify things, as long as this a la carte approach does not go into any contradictory with the intended learning outcomes of the program, and the a la carte approach allows the students to achieve all the intended learning outcomes for the program at the program level, I don't see a problem here, to be very honest. And especially that when you look at the structures, when you dig into the structures of some of the joint programs, you will see that there is a plenty of choosing option and selection options. For instance, when it comes to the mobility scheme, doesn't mean that all the students have to go through the same program, but sometimes at some point of the program they just desire to go in a specific, let's say, specialization or the specific topic that is offered only by one of the partners of the program, and is not offered because simply this institution specializes in it, and is not offered by the other. So you already see that within the core and within the very specifics of the joint program, the a la carte approach is already embedded and can be explored as long as it enables students to achieve all the intended learning outcomes, simply because at the end of the day, the learning outcomes need to match the degree that is awarded. So it all has to come together. So I really don't see the contradiction here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess the same goes with jointness and flexibility in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Simply because the jointness stands for like this synergy effect. So why the program is delivered in a joint manner. So what kind of the synergy it provides from the different institutions. So what kind of, let's say, you should look at the jointness from the perspective of answering the question, what is the, let's say, what is the added value that is achieved by this program, by the consortium, that would not be able to be achieved by each individual institution? And I think that this is the core of that.
Thank you. Thank you, Maciej. Sorry.
Of course, yes.
One question to you, Luca. Do you think that it could be feasible to create a joint degree as a pile-up of micro-credentials?
Can you repeat, because I didn't hear the question? Sorry.
So no problem. Can you see the possibility in creating a joint degree as a pile-up of micro-credentials?
I changed the question in that way. Is it possible to create different a la carte or modules or different parts of a joint degrees, and according to the different possibilities to award those different micro credential or the final joint master degree? Yes, is it possible, and also is needed, considering also the situation of COVID. How many people need to be relocated or need to have new competencies because they lost their job, for example? I think that the micro-credential is the point also for any kind of higher education institution if they don't want to lose that train, because everyone in the market are going to award also now, and they call in another way those kind of credentials, but they already award micro-credential. And I think that is important that higher education institutions take that role according to the fact that they have quality standards, according to the fact that it's very clear the procedure, how they award those kind of micro-credentials, but it's absolutely important right now to diversify different learning initiative and the possibility to award those kind of credentials in the same field, but according to the needs of the people. The fact of a la carte is something like that. So it's the concept of micro credentials. So the fact that to have a meet with the needs of the market, direct needs of the market.
Okay, thank you, Luca. Thank you to the three of you. Unfortunately, we could extend this discussion, but the time of the seminar is really going very, very fast. So I would like now to go to the next part, which is the roundtable, where we have a number of other participants who will bring their views on what you have presented. And it is my great pleasure to first welcome Federico Cinquepalmi from the Italian Ministry of Higher Education and Research, and you are the head of Internationalization Office. So Federico, you can have your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ludovic, and thank you to all the previous speakers that were so, let's say, technically helpful on giving the general, the detailed framework of what we are discussing right now. What is sure is that the political and administrative framework that is moving around the European universities, it's probably the most promising novelty in the landscape of the higher education in Europe since many years. And we must thank in some way the intuition of President Macron that in 2017 was launching the idea of the European universities, even if his first idea was probably slightly different. Anyway, the evolution of the idea itself from the Göteborg summit of head of states and government of Europe in 2017, it's now proposing a large, wide, and a very interesting framework that we probably better to focus for a second. What we are talking at the moment, we are talking of alliances of more than about 120 universities of 24 European countries, 25, something like that, and an incredible effort to synchronize our education system. It's very interesting to focalize to this specific point because, as you may know, Italy have just ended its mandate as the Secretariat of the European Higher Education Area. That is the pan-European process corresponding to the European Education Area of the European Commission. And the matter of synchronization and the matter to facilitating mobility in order to help on the recognition of an academic title is probably one of the most emerging issues that is still proposing essentially on the mobility matters like in Erasmus. So the idea to create within the Erasmus program by the European Commission as a key action of the Erasmus program itself, a program helping European university to join together on alliances in order to facilitate the mutual understanding and the recognition of academic title is amazing and is completely new. Of course, the problems are, let's say, no problems probably too much, but let's say the difficulties are there, and we cannot avoid to consider them. So all the education systems of Europe are quite structured with their own rules and regulations, and despite the efforts of certainly, let's say, supranational organisms like ECHR, it's still difficult to find the necessary compromises. However, let me focus on the positive part of the exercise. The spirit that is behind the European Education Initiative, European Higher Education Area, and European University Alliances Initiative, it's amazingly new. And the novelty is even strongly coming up after or during the present pandemic, because the fact that so many students were in the impossibility to move physically around, but still belonging to a university that is within an alliance, is helping a lot their sense of belonging to a larger framework than not just the framework of their own course and university. And from my point of view, on my point of observation as the director of the international affairs and former responsible of the Italian Secretariat for the European Higher Education Area, it's that this is helping a lot. Efforts that we have to do and things to face for the future. Well, micro-credential is an impressive tool. And if I could give a suggestion without, let's say, overlapping my voice to the voice of my previous speakers, I will say I will try to imply them in a parallel track. So if one track is the synchronization of the programs and full degree tracks, the other side of the coin is for sure the micro-credential system. And personally, just for give you the hints of the micro-credential powerful tool that could become, I have liberalized to university the possibility to recognize any kind of course for international students in this period of pandemia, even just single courses, in order to help to keep the momentum that was started in 2018 with European universities. This is probably the most important message that I would like to give to all the colleagues with responsibilities of ministries connected with our exercises. So we need to be flexible. We need to work within the legislative frameworks of each country, and we need to help university not to stock, let's say, as in Italy we say, not to stock on watching on the finger, but watching the moon. And the exercise of the European universities is really the new frontier of the education in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Federico. I can tell you that we have some questions to you, but we will keep them for the at the end of all the speakers from the roundtable. Thank you very much. I would like now to hear Solange Pisarz from HCRS, the French Quality Agency, and Vice Chair of ECA. Solange, if you are with us, yes, please.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Ludovic. Good morning to everyone, and it's really a pleasure to be here and to share with you. The future of European degree. It was already said, amazing, a very good spirit, and I agree with many information that were already given by the previous speakers. And if we try to draw a picture on that, I think there are two main distinctive trends. The European degree as an illusion, maybe as a dream, and the European degree as a possible reality. And the first thing is, why does it seem, or what does it sound like a dream? It's really something that does not really yet, and we are all talking about it. And it was mentioned, we have no proper definition yet. What could be a European degree? Is it a new type of degree, as mentioned, and maybe created by the European Commission? Then would we open the Pandora box about national and European competency? And also how to include this new creation in the national systems. It was mentioned already in the previous discussion. Who would choose this diploma? Is it existing higher education institutions or maybe European universities? And then also comes the status, the legal status of a European university. Are they all allowed, and would they all allowed to open and to issue such diploma? Second aspect, the target, the who. Is there a real demand for a European degree, or is it only an illusion, a bureaucratic mirage? We have to make sure about the added value, and it was already said again. Students, professors, higher education institutions, all stakeholders have to dialogue and to make sure to be a central component of the debate. The how, of course, the creation is one thing, and the picture is already quite blurred about the creation of such a European degree, but it's the same with the life going on with such a diploma. What about its sustainability? What about the financing, the recruitment of students, the guarantee of their employability, but also simply the quality assurance of this kind of new diploma? Still, there might be glimmers of hope, and the European degree perhaps not only an illusion. Firstly, because we are not starting from scratch. There is experience from higher education institutions, and it has been shown on many different occasions. There is experience from quality assurance agencies, all trying to adapt to the innovative and to promote internationalization. We've all proved that we were able to tackle challenges for the European higher education area. Secondly, also glimmers of hope with the already existing tools and mechanisms, which was explained by Maciej. The European approach, for example, is one of them. We have a common framework for quality assurance of joint programs. There is more and more knowledge and more understanding about it, even if there are still some gaps in some national barriers. So why not build on that? The European degree could perhaps be a joint degree that has been accredited through the European approach. This is one way. And there might be there could be a kind of additional label, a European degree label. And I heard that it's not something that everybody would agree on. But the European degree as a label could be a first step and could also be delivered to an existing diploma. There would be no creation, but much more on promotion and on information about these new types of diploma. So if we try to keep short, I would say that there might be a dream, and even if there might be a dream, there's a chance for this dream to become reality. So if there is a kind of hope to build a useful European degree, then it's on us to make sure that we are able to coordinate, meaning member states, European Commission, quality assurance agencies, higher education institutions, all together, try to make this dream come true.
Thank you very much, Solange, for your recommendations and comment. I would like now to welcome Tajana Mohnacki. Tajana, you are the Vice President of the Erasmus Student Network, and as such, we are eagerly waiting for your intervention to tell us more about what are the students' views on this important topic. That's very important to not only the EC2U Alliance, but all the universities, to hear also what are your expectations. Please.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to all the previous speakers. It was very interesting to hear other perspectives as well. And thank you very much, firstly, to the EC2U Alliance for the inclusion of the local ESN sections in the Alliance. We are very happy to see that the Alliance has such a student-friendly approach. And thank you very much to you personally, Professor Thilly, and the whole Coimbra group for the continuous support provided to ESN. In ESN, we mainly work on the topic of student mobility, and we truly believe that the European degree will alter the scope of student mobility and create foundations for smooth and interrupted mobility, which will have a revolutionary impact on the students and allow them to have a transformative academic exchange as a part of their higher education experience. We are very happy to see this is one of the objectives of the initiative, as well as that the Alliance puts such a strong focus on it. We also believe that the aspect of inclusion is one of the crucial aspects of the European degree. We firmly believe that the European degree should be accessible to all students. In order for initiatives like this to have as much as impact as they have promised, they should be made available to all the students. We as ESN have always been interested and involved in the field of academic recognition, and whenever we would do research studies on the barriers to student mobility for students themselves, the topic of recognition was always one of the top mentioned barriers by students. And this is only one of the reasons that call for inclusive and accessible solutions for all. We also believe that besides the formal curriculum, the elements of non-formal education play a very important role in students' experiences, especially when it comes to student mobility. Various socio-cultural aspects that the student experience when they go on mobility strongly influence their academic participation in the new environment. And we are looking forward to seeing how both the European degree, but also micro-credentials recognize this aspect of learning mobility as well. Additionally, and for this reason especially, we would strongly encourage that students and student representatives be involved in this consultative process. Student experiences are incredibly valuable when it comes to the topics that concern the students, and believe that both perspectives are a recipe for success and successful collaboration. In order not to make it any longer, because it has been mentioned a few times that we are short on time, we can see that in its core, European degree stands for innovation, flexibility, interculturality, engagement, and learning based on experience, in which the student has a central role. And ESN fully stands behind those values, and we are here to fully support the initiative as well as the EC2U Alliance throughout the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tajana, for these very important recommendations. And I take on board the fact that we need indeed to clearly engage with the students also on that matter. Thank you very much. Well, now we will hear the views from two sister alliances that have started to work on these very important topics a year before the EC2U Alliance, and as such, they are very important to us and to hear what are their views. And I would like to first welcome Dorothy Kelly, You are the Vice Rector for International Affairs at the University of Coimbra, and you are the coordinator of Ec2 Alliance. And of course, we are very interested in hearing your recommendations from what you have already experienced.
Thank you, Ludovic. University of Granada, belonging to the Coimbra group, of course. But thank you very much for the opportunity to share with our sister alliances, I will use Ludovic's term, and other stakeholders to discuss the issue of European degree. Ludovic has asked me briefly to explain what Ec2 has been doing, is doing in relation to European degrees and joint programs. Ec2 is an alliance of 7 universities, Bergen, Graz, Leipzig, Lyon, Padua, Vilnius, coordinated by Granada, with over 300,000 students and over 400,000 staff. And our approach to the whole issue of European universities has been a building blocks approach, a step-by-step approach to ensure that in these first 3 years, our first 3-year work plan, we lay sound foundations for future work. I would like to mention 2 specific aspects of our very intense and very broad work plan. First of all, a body which we have set up, which is the Ec2 Academy. The Ec2 Academy is the embryo for a future inter-university campus. It's a joint body responsible for coordinating and certifying all joint learning offer, whether it be for students or whether it be for professional development, a very important aspect of our work as an alliance. Learning offer at all levels and in all modalities, so online, blended, on campus, undergraduate, postgraduate, or as I said, professional development, and of course, micro-credentials. The other element that I would like to mention is that within our action line on student-centered frameworks for quality learning, one of our activities is a pilot program to design 3 joint master's programs. And I'd just like to outline very, very briefly what we're doing there. We have chosen 3 very interdisciplinary areas for these pilot programs: European studies, cybersecurity, and translating and interpreting. As I said, interdisciplinary, we are drawing on our multilingualism, we are drawing on innovative teaching and learning approaches, we're drawing on a research-based, research-led, and challenge-based and challenge-led approach. How are we organizing this? Within this activity, we have a team, a technical team of educational developers with very long international experience in designing international joint programs, in programs which have been mentioned already this morning, the Erasmus Mundus joint master's degrees, joint doctoral programs, double and multiple undergraduate degree programs, or at a more analytical level working in projects such as JoinMan, funded also by the European Commission and which established recommendations for the development of joint programs. Alongside this technical team and working very closely with them, we have 3 disciplinary, or rather I should probably say interdisciplinary teams of academics who are working on the design of future joint curriculums. Looking, of course, and I think this is very important, at the added value through complementarity and through additional enhanced and internationalized learning outcomes. In our step-by-step approach, in order to reach proposals for fully blown degree programs, we are already looking at a joint modular offer, at mobility in an increasingly structured way. And I found very interesting the debate over à la carte and structured programs. Summer schools, collaborative online international learning following the COIL methodology, and so on. That is all underway, but in parallel to that technical and academic work, we are also working both bilaterally and very soon multilaterally with our quality assurance agencies, who I must say have been extremely supportive of our initiatives so far, with our ministries. And I think perhaps as a result of this work, of the work that we've been doing both internally and with external agents, just like to point to 4 issues, 4 concerns which affect us in the current situation. The first would be, as Maciej said, that the European approach has not been adopted in all countries, and when it has been adopted in varying ways and to varying degrees. The second is that accreditation at local and national level takes very different forms. Without going into detail, in some cases accreditation is at program level, in other cases at field level, in other cases at institutional level, and this is something that I think needs to be written into the discussion on European degrees. And furthermore, we have a concern that, as the representative of the Italian ministry said, there is a lot of national support, and there are a lot of initiatives going on at national level to modify national legislation to remove obstacles. But we're concerned that some of these initiatives are not convergent amongst themselves, and we feel there is a need for coordination at European level of those initiatives. And finally, on this point, we have also detected in some contexts a rather exclusive approach, that is fast track for the alliances, but no systemic transformation. And I think it's very, very important to remember that here we're looking for systemic change. And I think the approach to the European degree, the European approach for joint programs, and of course micro-credentials needs to be system-wise. So summing up, and can I pick up on Solange's lovely expression of having a dream? I think we share a dream which would become true if there were moves at European level to facilitate solutions, looking perhaps at European competence for joint degrees, looking at a situation which could truly allow truly pan-European academic qualifications, with the added value that we are all convinced exists, and that we will be delighted as an alliance, as the Arcus Alliance, to feed into the study which the European Commission is about to launch, with the conclusions of all the work which has been ongoing in the Alliance since October 19. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dorothy, because you have really covered, I should say, most of the experience that we are already having at EC2U Alliance in the different obstacles, also the support that we may have from the different ministries. But as you said, there is a need for convergence, and probably the Commission has a role to play there together with the alliances. Thank you very much, Dorothy. Last but not least, I would like to call Tim Savage from Trinity College Dublin. You are representing the EC2U Alliance, and you also have a lot to tell us about how you managed so far with this very, very complicated topic. Please, Tim.
Thank you very much, Ludovic. Greetings from Dublin, everyone. It's always a bit of a curse to go last, because not only does everyone steal your points, but they say it so much better than I possibly could have. I'm going to give a little bit of background to our alliance and then make really one key point. I'm here as a senior advisor to EC2U, one of the first round European universities. We're challenge-driven, accessible, research-based, and mobile. I claim no credit for the acronym, but I think it's appropriate. And we are led by the University of Barcelona, including Utrecht, Montpellier, Jotfast in Budapest, and ourselves, Trinity College in Dublin. And in effect, we have all of our eggs in a way in one basket, which is the Masters in Global Challenges for Sustainability, which currently is just finishing its accreditation process as a joint degree. So with regard to the first two speakers who are excellent today, I would like to say, concerning a European degree, yes, please, because it was a significant challenge that we had to overgo to get ours approved. And secondly, we relied heavily on the EU approach for quality assurance of joint programs. So for others in the same situations, be prepared for a bit of a slog. It is difficult, but also that joint approach to us was vital in getting us to the stage where we're 95% approved and accredited for our innovative masters, and that's really important. But I'd also like to pick up on a point that Dorothy said. We're quite conscious that in getting through the various processes in the absence of the European degree, there were lots of favors done to us, and it certainly wasn't a systemic change, which I totally agree with you, Dorothy, is required. But I suppose the one thing I would like to point out from my own perspective, and I'll put my hands up, I'm an educationalist, I've driven the curriculum development, is about the fact that the reputation and the success of a European degree relies on the student experience. In all these slides, all this discussion, we talk about the administrative and the legal barriers and accreditation and all of that, but the focus to me should also really include the transformative educational experience, which is challenging. We're trying to design a challenge-based, transdisciplinary, flexible master's degree across 5 sites, whereby each institution has their own pedagogic culture. They have their own views on assessment. The students should be at the heart of this, but they have their own expectations about what a university or postgraduate experience is. So trying to marry and meet the expectations from the stakeholders and to get them to work together effectively. We've had to deal with issues such as workload allocation. So you might get academics from different institutions working together because we're very much into this idea of synergy and jointness and not bricolage. They're working together and some of them are getting buyout from their institution, whilst they're working alongside academics from other institutions of the Alliance who are expected to do this above and beyond their ordinary workload. So there's lots of logistical challenges, philosophical challenges, and pedagogical challenges about the creation of an innovative and transformative learning experience, which to us has to be very central within this concept of the European degree. We can solve all the administrative and legal barriers, and believe me, I know lots of them after the last couple of years, but without a really, really strong student experience, I think we will be not really capitalizing on the hope that I think is one of the themes of this seminar today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tim, for your very transparent contribution and the recommendations. I'm sure that the audience is very interested in all the points that you have developed. So actually, we are really, really behind schedule. So unfortunately, I don't think we will have much time to really bring another round of full discussion. So I would like maybe just to call all the speakers, all the 8 speakers from this morning, so they show up and at least we can view you again. And I would like really to thank you very much for all the very concrete overview, very concrete recommendations. I think that you, at your different levels, have also heard the requests and recommendations from the alliances, including our sister alliances. I would like to maybe also say, and here I will use my privilege of moderator, to maybe pass a message on behalf of the EC2U Alliance. I think it will probably a message that both Dorothy and Tim could have passed, but we clearly are facing, in the case of the EC2 Alliance, sorry, the case of the problem of applying or not the European approach at different national levels, and also a further difficulty with the à la carte master program, which we wanted to develop also in a challenge-based approach. So we would really call all the national ministries, and in particular, I may dare to say to the Italian one, since we have Federico with us, I think that the University of Pavia is really looking forward to a very intense discussion with you and your services, so that we can really reach what we want to develop to the benefit of the students. So I hope that all the national ministries will hear our plea for a convergence, as Dorothy was saying, because we do see there a unique opportunity to create very enriching experiences for the students, and also at the same time covering new ways of teaching, new ways of learning at our universities, things that we have all been calling for years and years. So I think we all agree that the European Universities Initiative is absolutely a unique opportunity, and all together we hope that we can move in the right direction. So I don't know if Federico, you want to immediately react, but we need your support for, in particular, the Italian aspect of our joint approach in the EC2 Alliance.
the colleagues of the University of Pavia knows very well that they already have my support. So it's not a matter of discussion. If I can just briefly react, I think that as often happens, the truth is on the middle. Maybe a complete, fully application of an a la carte approach to a full program for the moment, not only in Italy, but in the majority of the country in Europe, will be a problem. Vice versa, I believe that try to build up courses where, even in the present legislation in Italy, we are allowed to getting single courses that could be recognized in order to reach the number of credits that you can achieve for a master program. It's something that could be done. Eventually trying to, let's say, having a part of the credits that compose a single courses that are mandatory in some way, and then the possibility to choose courses that are belonging to certainly key areas in order to achieve the full number of credit with the application of a certain flexibility. This is personally my point of view, and I can tell you that is nothing far away from the tradition of Italy, because personally, when I was in the university in the 90s and in the 80s, so 1,000 years ago, the model it was that one. I mean, you had, let's say, 10 exams that was absolutely mandatory, and then you have certainly areas when it was available for the student pick up the exams and build up his own career in a certain way. And maybe this is probably the way to get out of this kind of swamp that it seems to be. However, let me tell that this is anyway a matter of national legislation, because the European Union doesn't have the right to get legislation in the specific domain of education. So we need to find opportune compromise. But Italy have already me as a champion for that.
Thank you very much, Federico, for, in a way, giving also the voice of all the ministries, and we truly appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Once again, I would like to thank all the speakers and all the participants. It was, to my personal opinion, a really interesting session. I can tell you from the audience viewpoint, we have received a lot of questions, and of course, this will be an undergoing debate for the years to come, and we will continue to bring our part to the discussion at Ec2u Alliance. And just before closing, and thank you all once again, I would like to share with you the screen that you hopefully can see now, just to tell you that you should stay tuned to the Ec2u Alliance social media, because in the month of April, we will launch the first Ec2u think tank, where we will call all the community, the students, the researchers, the teachers, but also the citizens to participate on this new approach to what we called value for your values. And we will continue the discussion with all of you. Thank you very much. Have a good day and take care all in these difficult times. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.